Hey, Aneesa.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, good. Hanging in there.
Yes. I just want to get to know you a little bit more today, and help everyone understand how you do it all because you've got a
Yeah.
lot on your plate as a business owner, as a mom, as all the other things that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Aneesa Waheed. I own, along with my husband, Tara Kitchen, which is a restaurant which started in Schenectady in 2012, and then we opened a Troy location in 2017. And Guilderland is under construction right now with a projected opening date of November 3rd. Hoping that happens. We're really, really pushing for that November 3rd date because we're really behind. We were supposed to open it in March, but we're
COVID
just
has a way with you.
right off 2020. Like
Yes.
it's just, next year, I'll be the same age. Everything will be the same. Like it'll be like
Wouldn't
groundhog.
that be nice if you could just skip ahead and
Yeah, I don't even
yeah,
mind the not skipping ahead part, but I'm just not gonna count this year. That's it.
a good way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in beating yourself about something you cannot control. So,
Exactly.
just riding the course out with COVID, and contractors are back at the location starting work. So I'm very optimistic that'll happen.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know you've been kind of hoping to get that going for quite some time now. So
Yes, yes.
excited
I
to
mean,
hear.
I think, that's what happens with these kind of projects, and especially if you're working under lots of different kinds of restrictions, be it location or financial or time. I mean, I think if you want to do a project under limitations, it always takes time because you have to find the right space, the right, team, all of those things. So it did take us a little while. I mean, same thing with Troy. When we did Troy, it took us well over a year. I mean,
Yeah.
to find the right spot and then all that kind of stuff. So Guilderland, we actually started last spring, and it took us a while to find the right spot, and then negotiated and all that stuff, and then COVID took away 6 months. So it is what it is. That's why I'm already planning location number 4 because I'm going to do it now
Yeah.
and hope it happens in 2 years.
Exactly. Start to plan early, get there eventually.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, you have a long background in restaurants. I mean, you got started at the farmers market, right?
Yeah, so I started the farmers market in 2008. I actually used to work in printing and publishing in New York City. So after I got married, my husband and I decided we were going to move back upstate, which is where I grew up. I grew up in the Schenectady County, and we wanted. He had immigrated here from technically Pakistan, but via Morocco.
Hmm.
And we had decided that we were going to try and do a business together so we could not only spend time together, but also try and, grow a business together. So we first started out with a small little import shop in Schenectady. And then from there, we started food at the farmers market in 2008, about 12 years ago. And, that's where it all got started. The farmers market, the first restaurant. Then we did a line of cooking sauces, which sells in grocery stores now. Um, yeah, so, I feel lucky. I feel lucky that it kind of happened organically for me, and it kind of happened in a way that I really enjoy, and I've learned a lot along the way. And every day I learn something new, about either my business or about the industry or about me as a person. So I think it doesn't seem like 12 years or a long career because it's just been really a fantastic ride. It's been thrilling. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you just keep doing more.
Yes, because then it would stop being thrilling.
Is it the new that you enjoy? Like you just, because I mean, for the Troy location, I know you tend to bring other people in to run the space once you've started it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible for me. I'm not a control freak, but I am a control freak, if that makes sense. So I think if you have the right process in place and the right team members in place, then that's your key to growth, right? If you constantly think that you are the end all be all, you would never grow. So that's really key for us, is having the right process and the right systems in place. And we worked very, very hard on that at the Schenectady location. And Troy was an experimentation, not just in can we run a second location, but it really, really was an experiment in how do we replicate our process, and how do we make sure that we can replicate the quality and the taste factor and sort of, you know, the nuance of how I cook. How do we replicate that with someone else cooking? And that's what we perfected in Troy. And I think what we're going to do in Guilderland, the idea is now to take all the knowledge from our first, second location and kind of marry that into a third location, which will hopefully be even better, even, you know, more complete experience for the customer. So as we, and then, you know, what we learn from every new location, we then cascade that back to the old ones, right? So it's not sort of like, oh, we learned something fancy here, screw you, Schenectady. So, you know, it's good because as we grow as business people, as chefs, as, you know, team members, it helps us then also tune in and key into other issues that we might be having within the organization.
Definitely. So you're always kind of looking at process and how to make things better.
I think it's key. I think your process is extremely key, and process is all about not just quality control, but it's also about time management. And, you know, going back to the idea that I tend to do a lot, or I have a lot on my plate, and how do I do it, and how do I manage time? I think it all goes back to basically process. And when I think about process, I just don't think about process in terms of the process at work. You know, like my entire life is a process. From the moment I wake up to, you know, what time I wake up, to what's the first thing I do after I wake up. And, you know, I'm always extremely aware of what time it is. You know, you'll never catch me not knowing, oh, 2 hours have gone by and I was just, whatever, peeling onions, you know. I think that's extremely important for someone like me, because I do have a lot going on. I have 2 small kids. We have 3 restaurants. We have a cooking line, which has exploded this year in the age of COVID, when everyone was sort of home and cooking and trying new things. You know, like grocery business has just really exploded. I don't even know how many times we multiplied our business this year. It was insane, and are continuing to grow. You know, so we have an entire staff that works on that business, which is very, very different, you know, completely different from the restaurant end of it. So not a lot of people see that. So, you know, managing and dealing with that. And we're in over 560 locations. So managing and dealing with the distributors, all of that stuff. So, I mean, point being, if I was not highly organized with my time, then it wouldn't be possible.
Do you have tools that you use to manage your time?
Not anything, not electronic tools, right? It's more, I guess, a skill set or a way of thinking, and allotting time to tasks is like a really important thing for me. You know, that really, really helps me. Like, for example, it takes me 17 minutes to get ready in the morning, right? And whatever I need to do is going to happen in those 17 minutes. Like, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, la-di-da, let me try a new eyeshadow this morning. It just doesn't happen. Like, so I'm very process oriented and very, you know, time oriented. So knowing that, okay, I need 17 minutes to do X, and then it takes me 12 minutes to drive to the office or well, to the restaurant. And then, so those are the things that, you know, again, it goes back to process that you can then put a time limit on that helps me figure out my day. Making sure that I'm doing everything consistently is also a huge thing for me. So for example, I don't care what happens. This is a perfect example. I don't take any sort of non-immediate work-related calls or emails or interviews or anything before 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It just doesn't happen, right? I don't care if nothing's on my calendar, but I'm just not going to do it.
Definitely.
Because, so you force like events to happen at a certain time and a certain day. So you train your body and your mind to know that, oh, on Tuesdays, a chunk of afternoon is set up for meetings, interviews, or people who want to try and reach me, whatever the reason might be. So I've kind of blocked out sections of my day that way, and my week. And, there's certain times that are completely blocked off for the kids and family.
Yep.
So forcing myself to stay within those time blocks is huge.
I'm sure.
And you have to allow yourself some fun free time too. So I love watching really, really crappy TV. So, if I want to watch like 90 minutes of 90 Day Fiance, then you have to allow yourself to do that, but you have to schedule it. And I try to do stuff where, I might be playing General Hospital in the restaurant while I'm prepping. So I can still get a little bit of mind candy while I'm working, right? So it's things like that. It's being able to, I think, break your day down, allotting time slots, being realistic about what you can and cannot accomplish. I think that's extremely important. So I don't start off my day thinking, I'm going to do 80 different things. I start out my day thinking I'm going to do these 4 top priority things, and finding people to delegate things to if you're not able to get to them, right? I think that's really, really important. And that's something that a lot of people forget is, or might not realize, is we have a really great support system. So we have good staff, like at the restaurant, but also have a lot of help with the kids, and an assistant that can help me with some of the tasks that I cannot do. And so I'm lucky that way. We've been able to build up a support system where I am not necessarily dotting every I and crossing every T.
But you weren't always like that. I mean, you didn't always have an assistant.
Oh my God, no.
What allowed you to get to the point that you were able to have those things?
Well, again, I think, being very efficient with time and money and continuing to grow the business, at some point there's a breaking point, right? At some point you have to realize, like, do I continue to do these tasks that are taking a lot of my time? Do I really need to sit here and order the puppy gate? Or should I be having the interview with Albany Business Review so that can get printed in the newspaper, that can get us more exposure? Or should I be, testing out a new recipe for the menu, right? Like then you have to set those priorities. So it came to a tipping point, I would say probably close to when Troy opened about 3 years ago. So the first location, I did pretty much a lot of it myself. And of course, Munsim is very hands-on in the business. So, but we realized very quickly after the second location, or even before that, we would need help, and we need people to help do certain things so that I can do the things that only I can do. And that's a recurring theme in my life. Just because I'm free and I can do dishes doesn't mean I will, because I could be doing something that has more value or meaning that somebody else might not be able to do, right? So I think that's a key. You have to realize and recognize what your strengths are and where you can help the business grow and how you can grow it so you're not stuck. Otherwise, there's really no growth.
And I mean, you talk about there are things that you enjoy in your business, right? Like you just like what you do, so you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think you can't always like the things you do unless you delegate some of those things off.
Yeah. And of course you have your bad days too, where, most of the things that happen that, are bad days, in my opinion, are things that happen because a process was not followed.
Mm-hmm.
or a procedure was not followed, or, and to me, those are the frustrating things more than anything else, because I'm such a process or you can hear me yelling and screaming in the restaurant when I'm like, if you just followed the process, this wouldn't have happened. And I think, my crew is probably sick of it, but there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, things run a certain way because you follow a process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love the job. I love, the restaurant is such a fun place to be. You get to meet people all day and have great fun interactions. The crew is awesome. And, we're very, very, very picky about who joins our crew and who doesn't, because we're a small, tight crew in each location. And if the, 9, 10 of us cannot get along, it's just not going to work, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really, really important, is to be able to work with people that you like, and not just you like, but they enjoy being with you and enjoy being with each other. I mean, that was the biggest reason I left corporate America. It was never that I hated my job. I never hated my job. I loved what I did, and that aspect of technology. But what I hated were the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I hated some of the interactions and the backbiting and the corporate ladder climbing tactics that are used and all that stuff. And I was like, I just, so I'm very, very particular about who works, and that in fact, they enjoy it, as do we, and that it's a good team environment.
Do you
It's,
have like plans as to how you bring somebody new on, or do you like have a
yeah,
structure
we
for that?
do. We definitely try and reach out to, probably non-traditional places to look for people. So we do, the refugee organization is a big one for us. We
Mm-hmm.
want to help and support them. The YWCA is a big one for us. Women who are looking for jobs, who might have issues with childcare and cannot work lots of hours and those kind of things. So I love working with them. High school, high school seniors just getting out of, trying to get out and trying to figure out if they might not be going into culinary. So those 3 spots have traditionally worked really well for us. And I find that, at least for the way we are set up and the kind of environment, we're a very, very different restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We're only open 2 hours for lunch and 3 hours for dinner. It's
Yep.
kind of like laughable, right? Because most places are open from either 10 or 11 in the morning to maybe 10 at night. And you hear all these horrific stories about chefs working 60-hour days and, weeks, and having like the 10, 12-hour days, and, not having a work-life balance, all of that stuff. So even before anything got started, one of the first things that we did was we made sure, that we were just not going to be that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we started from day one the way we wanted the restaurant to run,
Mm-hmm.
and the hours that we wanted to work. So my thought was, the absolute worst case scenario, imagine not a single worker shows up. What can you possibly do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking about how does that affect my family life and all that stuff. And that's how we came up with the hours and days and all that stuff for how Tara Kitchen operates. It has really no other scientific reasoning besides how it works in my life. That's it.
That's great.
So yeah, and
But
that's why I think,
as a business owner, you're able to do that, right? You don't have somebody telling you you have to be somewhere 9 to 5. You can build that around your actual life.
right. But that worked for us, and we were able to dictate that, and we were able to say we were only going to do a 2-hour lunch, and we were only going to do a 3-hour dinner, and we kind of forced the issue on the fact that these are the 3 hours you can come and get the best food that you possibly can get for the best price. So let's pack all of that energy into those 3 hours, so we don't have the staff and everybody hanging around for a 6-hour dinner shift, when in all reality, dinner is only really like a 2-3 hour dinner, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are not necessarily eating, not everybody's eating from like 4 to 10 at night. So you have a little bit of stragglers, then your bulk is right here in the middle. So that's, we forced that issue primarily so that we could have, when I opened the first restaurant, Zoya was only 8 months old and I was pregnant with Suha. So I needed a nap in the day, I used to take a nap every afternoon, and I was thinking about, well, breastfeeding schedules, all of those kind of things. So I breastfed both of them through, a new restaurant. So I think that really helped, knowing that these are my limitations and this is how it has to work. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable and throw in the towel, because if you're not happy doing what you're doing, and how can you be if you're working 60, 70 hours a week, right? But again, it's easy for me to say that because we found a way to do it, but someone else might say, well, I need my restaurant to be open from 10 to 10 in order for me to make, the budget and that kind of stuff. And that's when people have to really look at, it's really interesting. I started this Tara incubator during COVID. I don't know if you heard about it. Okay. So one of the things we started doing with all our mentees immediately was, okay, here's your product. Let's take a look at what your cost is. Are you making money, not making money? And 100% of the time we found that they were not making money, even though they thought that they were.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think doing stuff like that is like so helpful to like really look at yourself and say, is it really worth it?
And I think sometimes it's scary to look at yourself and say, am I making money, right? So, I mean, it's very interesting that you have really taken the time and the effort to understand the processes, understand what you can and can't do, and how to delegate those things. Because, I mean, that seems to me like the way that you're making this all work for yourself is really looking through, like, what am I able to do and how do I do it?
Yeah, no, it's I think it's key. I think being self-aware and being honest about what you're capable. There's some things that I suck at, and we totally outsource that. Like I look at our books pretty much every single day. I look at our reports weekly, monthly. I have meetings with, our, now we have a company CFO, but I meet with him pretty much every Friday. We do all this stuff. I can look at reports. I cannot generate reports. I cannot do bookkeeping. I cannot balance a checkbook to save my life. I'll be like, oh, we have $3 in the account. I'm writing a check for 10. Will that work? That'll be me, right? So it's just not worth it and it's so key to understand your finances. So it was really, really important for us to make sure we had the right person in that position so that we could use that as a growing tool.
And I think sometimes it's hard to understand, like, if I hire somebody for this, which I may not have the money for, what more can I do to bring in money to pay for that person? What was that process like for you?
It's very painful. Yes. Right? It's always painful because even now, as we're opening the third location, we've started to hire new people, start training them, and then you're sort of like, well, do I really need him training right now? Because really the rest of us are just standing around staring at this guy. So it is a painful process, for any entrepreneur to see money going towards something that you might not immediately need. But I think it's extremely important to understand why that needs to happen, because if the right training doesn't happen at the right time and you don't free up yourself to be thinking about, like in my case, putting people into train in places so that I can free up myself to finish all the planning, designing for Guilderland. Like I cannot be on the stove all day because the contractor will be waiting for me to pick a paint color, delaying the project, right? Like, so those are the things that I try to focus on, like having a bookkeeper, having, a CFO, an account, like all of this stuff is, of course, it costs money and stuff, but then like when you understand, what they're doing and how you can use those tools to grow your business, like when you understand your numbers and when somebody, rings the alarm bells, is like, hey, this month, like stuff's going haywire. it's really important for us to then take a look at those things. Those are actually saving you time and money, rather than things just happening and you constant. I like to stay ahead of the problem rather than have catastrophic things happen and then you try to like solve those problems. So I think it's important. That's why the initial pain might be there to like outlay that money, but then you have to figure out that using that time to like then bring in more money is what really the entrepreneur should be doing.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say to somebody who, maybe they're a chef and they want to be on the stove all day? I mean,
Yeah, that's
how
totally
can you
fine.
figure those things
Like,
out?
I think part of what works really well for me is, aside from the fact that I really love to cook, I also really love to run my business.
Mm-hmm.
It's very thrilling for me to come, create new ideas, new revenue streams, and meet and think of the next steps, like planning this year. We're always planning in sort of like 10-year modes. So it's year 1, year 5, year 1, year 3, year 5, year 10, right? Like, and then trying to keep on that vision and all those kind of things. But that's thrilling for me. And here's the thing. If you have someone who's like, listen, I just want to be a chef because I'm the creative guy, that's totally fine. But then make sure you put people in place that can protect the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are actually two aspects to running a restaurant, and I can speak mostly for a restaurant. There's the entire creative people aspect of it, and the customer and all that stuff. But then the business end is actually a bigger beast.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a bigger beast, right? Like with COVID, we had to do so many things. We had to change so many things, and a million decisions were being made every millisecond.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's looking at me like, okay, what next? What next? What next?
Yes.
I'm like internally having a, meltdown. But if the business is not taken care of, if that beast is not taken care of, you got nowhere to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, right? So that's important. I think if you're a creative person, you know that this is not your shit. And unfortunately, that's what ends up happening to a lot of creative people, right? They're creative. They love that energy and sort of that process of being creative, and they might not necessarily love the business side of it, like making decisions. We had to make some really hard decisions. How many people do you cut? How many people do you bring back? Some people are just not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
That's okay. Find the right guy to do that then.
Yeah, I think that's so important, is making sure to really understand what are you actually going to do, right?
Yeah.
What do you like to do? What's not going to take you if it's going to take you an hour to do and it should take somebody else 20 minutes, that's saving you time if you can hire it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes for also like how we manage our staff. Not everybody is going to be able to do everything the same way that this guy or that guy can do. We're not robots.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that, sometimes you have someone and you're just like, I just don't get it. Like, why can't this guy not do X? And then I have to step back and, realize that he doesn't process the same way I would process.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's another fit for him. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's wrong for the company. And we've done that many times. People have come in as cooks who have become waiters who have become dishwashers who have become cooks, and other people who have become demo people. Like we've shifted. It's like I if we like the person, and if the person wants to be within the company, you got to find the right fit for them,
Mm-hmm.
and the same goes for you.
Definitely. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you have this scheduled out in your time today.
Come on, Katie. No.
Is there anything else that, along this lines of time management and understanding? I mean, you're right to the dot of how long things are taking. Anything else you want to suggest to somebody who maybe is struggling with time management?
I think if you're struggling with time management, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
I think anything you're struggling with in life, you should write it down, right? I really believe that. And when you write it down, don't type it up in your phone, don't, type it up on your computer. there is a lot of science behind the idea that when you actually take a pencil to paper, there is a reaction that's happening in your brain that makes that interactions stay with you longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a more purposeful meaning than just like rapidly typing or speaking into your phone a note and stuff. So I've always been a pen and paper kind of person. I have multiple notebooks with multiple notes and to-do lists and all those kind of things. So I think if you're struggling with time, the first thing to do is like write down your day, what needs to happen, having to-do lists, and aside, putting time limits on stuff. And it's the same thing like what people say to people trying to lose weight, right?
Mm.
Like, why are you fat if you think you don't eat too much? Something is happening, right? I mean, there can be some like really crazy medical reasons why you're not whatever. Well, I say the same thing to myself. It's like, I cannot eat 3,000 calories and expect to be 30 pounds lighter. So it's the same thing. It's the same exact concept, is write things down and putting a time limit. Maybe you realize that maybe you're taking way too much at task X that doesn't need to happen. So that's a really good start, and making decisions like quick and fast, and not agonizing over like things over and over and over again, like making decisions so you can like keep your day moving forward. Well, most people in my industry are really good at that because we're trained mentally to be like thinking fast, so those kind of things, and taking emotion out of your day, I think that is really helpful too. Is for me, I look at things in a very sort of need to get done, not get done kind of way. Like, it's very black and white for me. So that really helps in making sure that my day is successful that way. And then when you do, when you have your time with your family and your friends and this kind of thing, it needs to be a complete time with them. So, and also realizing that not everybody's work-life balance is the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's is different. So don't think that just because person X does it this way, mine has to be that way too. You have to find the way that works for you and what that balance might be for you. Some people need more sleep. Some people need less sleep. Like, all of those things really make a difference in how you schedule your day about.
Yeah, I think the point of just analyzing, I mean, everything in your life, really, it seems like, but but analyzing what you need as an individual, as a business, to actually make it work.
Yeah, that's what
And
they
be happy.
And yeah, that's what they say in the airlines, right? Like, put your face mask on first, your oxygen mask. If you are not right, nothing can work. And as a mom, as a wife, as a probably, most of my crew sort of looks towards me more as the person making decisions, because most women do, than my husband. It's very, very important to me that I have my oxygen mask on all the time. Otherwise, the house of cards would crumble. So that's really, really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. And just, I know with COVID, everyone is kind of going a million miles a minute at this point. So it's helpful to kind of take a breath and talk about how we can all be better with time.
Well, thank you, Katie. I appreciate you guys reaching out to me.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.